This is a story about a young woman who was a popular personality on Instagram and TikTok. In early 2020, her naked body was found on the street, and the investigation of this case attracted the attention of millions of people around the world. On the morning of Saturday, November 28, 2020, a Houston Waste Collection Service employee, as usual, was making his rounds to collect trash. At one point, he noticed something strange in the bushes along the road. It looked like a human body. Frightened, he called his boss and asked what to do. The boss contacted the police, and they arrived at the scene. They were greeted by a horrific sight. A dead girl was lying in the bushes, her clothing missing. The officers did not notice any injuries that could have caused her death. It was only 2 days later that the police were able to identify the deceased. She turned out to be 26-year-old Alexis Sharkey, who by that time was actively being searched for by friends and family. Alexis was a very well-known personality. For many years, she was active on Instagram and had amassed a significant audience. At the time of her death, she had just over 22,000 followers, but just a few months later, her profile had more than 90,000 people following it. This was due to the active media coverage of her murder. She also had a popular TikTok profile, which gained more than 50,000 followers in a short time. In addition, she sold cosmetics for the Monet brand. Thanks to her extensive audience on Instagram, the girl did not have to worry about finding customers. They found her themselves. Alexis was married to Tom Sharkey. The couple traveled actively, as evidenced by the many photos together on Instagram, but they spent most of their time in Houston, Texas. The couple had been married for just under a year, but according to the girl's friends, they were already planning to divorce. Tom was significantly older. He was 49 years old at the time of their wedding. He also had 2 children from a previous marriage. On Thursday, 2 days before her disappearance, Alexis celebrated Thanksgiving with her friend Tanya and her family. According to them, the evening was wonderful. They laughed, played board games, and had a great time. After that, a friend picked her up, and they went to a bar, where they stayed until 3 in the morning. After the bar, Alexis returned to her friend's house, where she had spent Thanksgiving, picked up her car, and drove home. As it turned out later, this friend was a DJ named Sebastian, whom Alexis had met at a Mexican resort. It is not entirely clear whether they had a romantic relationship. Some friends say they were indeed dating. Others claim that Alexis just was friends with him because she did not want to cheat on Tom. Friends and relatives of Alexis became worried the next day after the girl stopped responding to messages. For her, this was out of the ordinary. All her activity was conducted through the internet, so Alexis was always in touch. None of her friends could recall a time when the girl did not respond to their messages for a long time. On Saturday, November 28, Tom called Alexis's mother and said that she was missing. According to the husband, the last time he spoke with her was on Friday. A few hours later, the girl's mother posted a message on Facebook about her daughter's disappearance. She asked anyone who might have any information about her whereabouts to contact the police. Shortly after, she admitted to journalists that she was initially prepared for the worst. She had a premonition that something truly terrible had happened to her daughter. Alexis's parents lived in Pennsylvania and had last seen their daughter a year before these events. The reason for this was the COVID-19 restrictions, which made it difficult to travel between states. The family had planned to meet on Thanksgiving, but by that time, the pandemic was only gaining momentum, and they decided to abandon this idea. That Thanksgiving turned out to be Alexis' last. On November 28, when her body had already been found and her mother and friends were trying to locate her, the police had not yet identified the deceased. It was not until November 30 that the girl's husband went to the morgue to look at a body matching Alexis's description. The police were unable to identify her on their own since she had not a single belonging with her, no documents, no smartphone, no wallet. The case immediately received widespread publicity. Since the cause of death was not immediately established, numerous theories emerged. Initially, there was a lot of speculation that Alexis might have been under the influence of a large amount of alcohol or something even more serious. In such a scenario, her death could have been a mere accident. However, there were many contradictions. Even if it is assumed that the girl was in an inadequate state, where were all her belongings, including her clothes? Another theory turned out to be much more interesting. As soon as Alexis's body was found, her friends told reporters and the police quite disturbing details about her personal life. According to friends, Alexis and her husband Tom had been arguing frequently and were in the process of getting a divorce. Even more troubling was the fact that Tom might have repeatedly been physically abusive towards his wife. According to one of Alexis's friends, the girl once confessed to her that Tom could not just hit her, but also strangle her until she lost consciousness. Such incidents happened repeatedly. Two friends also mentioned that Alexis had complained several times about being physically abused by her husband. In their opinion, this was the reason why the girl decided to end the marriage. Before the body was discovered, when Alexis's friends were trying to locate her, they called Tom. He said that before her disappearance, they had an argument after which Alexis ran out of the house, got into a black car, and drove off in an unknown direction. Later, he would say that there actually hadn't been any argument and also claimed that she left the house on foot. At one point, he recounted following Alexis in his car, using an app that tracks the location of a smartphone via GPS. This story seemed blatantly strange to everyone, as did the fact that the man constantly changed his version of events. Tom denied any involvement in Alexis's death. After her body was discovered, he made several posts on social media, talking about how much he loved his wife and how he would miss her. Tom also publicly criticized everyone who considered him guilty of Alexis's death. According to him, he received threats from unknown individuals who wanted to avenge the girl. It took nearly 2 months for Alexis's family and friends to learn the cause of her death. According to the medical examiner's conclusion, the girl died from strangulation. It was definitively a murder. If anyone could have thought it was an accident before the report was released, after its publication, everyone was only concerned with one question: who killed Alexis? Naturally, her husband Tom became the main suspect. However, there was no direct evidence against him. Moreover, the man voluntarily cooperated with the police on a regular basis. There were also very strange moments. Alexis's mother wanted to bury her in Pennsylvania, where she was born, and Tom agreed to this. Legally, the decision on the place of burial was his to make. But when the mother began preparing for the funeral, Tom suddenly stopped answering her calls and didn't sign the documents needed to transport the body from Texas to Pennsylvania. After 2 weeks of silence, the rights to organize the funeral were transferred to Alexis's mother. Tom also has a rather bizarre story involving his ex-wife. Once, when the spouses quarreled, Tom sent nude photos of his wife to her boss to get back at her. Of course, such behavior towards the mother of 2 children suggests that Tom had problems with self-control and understanding of his actions. It is also worth remembering the story told by Alexis's friends, in which the girl admitted that Tom sometimes strangled her. Here, too, everything is ambiguous. Now it is impossible to understand whether it was conscious violence or the couple practiced it in bed. Alexis only told her friends that she often lost consciousness and woke up on the bathroom floor. Another important fact is that Alexis's body was found just a few kilometers from her home. While it's hard to say exactly what this implies, it's certainly worth mentioning. Another theory considered was that Sebastian, who had spent time with her in the bar shortly before the murder, could be the killer. There's no evidence in this direction at all, so it's very hard to imagine his motives. Some even discuss the possibility that Tanya, Alexis's friend with whom she spent Thanksgiving, could be the murderer. What motives could she have? First, it's worth noting that all the friends worked for Alexis in the Monat Company, built on a network marketing principle. The girl earned a percentage of the earnings of those she brought into the company. Proponents of this theory believe that the friends could actually hate Alexis, as she made huge money off them. According to the Monat website, an employee of her level earned an average of about $400,000 a year, which is a lot even by U.S. standards. Of course, all her friends earned much less, and Alexis constantly demanded that they increase sales and work to their maximum. If we follow this theory, the friends could have killed her and made up all these stories in which Tom constantly beat his wife and threatened her. No one but her friends had this information, including Alexis's mother, and they're very close. Moreover, the mother did not know that Tom and Alexis were planning to divorce. There were also no documents confirming this fact. Perhaps all their stories about the divorce were also made up. However, the further investigation into Alexis Sharkey's murder eventually led authorities to focus on Tom Sharkey as a suspect. Before law enforcement could arrest him in connection with Alexis's death, Tom Sharkey was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot on October 5, 2021, leading to a tragic conclusion of the criminal investigation into Alexis's murder.